Welcome to the Silhouettes of Success podcast with your host, successful entrepreneur, broker, and business mentor, Amber Weitzer. Because success comes in all shapes, sizes, and styles, the Silhouettes of Success podcast is shining the light on industrious women with a collection of curated conversations of intentional inspiration designed to inspire your heart, ignite your mind, feed your soul, and gift you with actionable insights directly from inspirational, everyday women who've shown tenacity, grit, and grace, having taken on the challenges in their lives and business and won. Remarkable, down-to-earth, and relatable, Amber and her guests will share with you uplifting and extraordinary real-life success stories, motivational ideas that just might help spark something within you. With the deepest desire to serve you, help you grow so you can begin to shine the light that will illuminate your very own silhouette of success. So, let's get to it.
Hello, and welcome to the Amber Weitzer podcast, Silhouettes of Success. Our VIP featured guest helps women defy the status quo, amplify their influence, and expand their wealth and power with thought leadership. Founder and CEO of Medusa Media Group, she and the team train and advise authors, speakers, coaches, and consultants to generate strong leads and grow engaged audiences by publishing their best thinking. Silhouettes, please help me welcome Eva Jannotta to the show. Hello, Eva. How are you?
Hey, Amber. I'm great. It's great to be here.
Well, it is fantastic to have you spend a little bit of time with us today. So once again, thank you for taking time to share your Silhouette of Success story with us.
Absolutely. Let's get into it.
Let's do it. So I like to start off and let you introduce yourself a little bit by sharing the shaping of your silhouette of success by having you share a little bit about yourself and your background with the audience. So go for it.
Yeah. Okay. I love the metaphor of the silhouette of success. And I feel like maybe everyone does, but my silhouette is sometimes it has some fuzzy edges and the shape of it is changing over time. But I can share that I started my business, Medusa Media Group, nearly 8 years ago. And as I have learned since, many women entrepreneurs I'm connected with also started their businesses out of a really challenging time. And so in my case, the challenging time was I had a corporate job that I absolutely loved, but I wasn't performing very well in it. And I was having a hard time getting my footing with my manager. And there was just, I think, a lot of internal stuff going on with the company that I can see in hindsight. But regardless, that job kind of imploded. And alongside the job imploding, a lot of my self-confidence imploded. I was really having a lot of anxiety and self-doubt about my ability to perform professionally and my sense of certainty about what I was even doing with my life. So on the one hand, what a terrible time to start a business. But on the other hand, it was a great time to start a business because I was quite young. I didn't have a lot of responsibility. So it felt like a quote unquote safe time to take a risk for me. And I didn't have a plan, which in some ways meant that my business trajectory was full of fits and starts and a bit of slow going. But on the other hand, it meant that I didn't know too much to be afraid of. So I just plunged myself into starting a company that was first kind of broadly communications consulting, and then more specifically marketing for women entrepreneurs, and then more specifically the thought leadership training and advising that I do today. So that's, the professional side. And I like to share that I'm a weightlifter and I love to read romance novels and fantasy novels. And I also love learning about outer space.
Well, this is so cool.
So those are some things about me.
Wow, fun. Okay, so we have more to play with than I had already anticipated. This is fantastic. Well, let's go back a little bit. So, quite admirable that you were able to have a clarity, and I use that term all the time, but we just get sometimes so caught up in the muck and mire, right? That we're not able to see. And so for you to, coin the phrase to save time for you to go out on your own. So that's fantastic that you did that. Courageous and brave. So let's talk about maybe funneling that down a little bit to the actual day-to-day type things, because we see what we see, social media, and this is your forum, but we're able to see all of the things that, you're accomplishing and that she's accomplishing and the women out there. So we want to know, how do you do it? So the alarm clock goes off, your work or business day begins. Share with us some best practices or what works for you. Day in the life of, are you structured? Do you have a routine? You mentioned not having a plan earlier, but I think that's probably adjusted given your success and what you're doing. Or are you just more of a spontaneous spirit? Because now you threw in a couple of fun things here. So now you've got my mind wondering.
Yes.
So talk to us about that.
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked that, Amber, because something I've been thinking about a lot lately is what I call story monopolies. That when we go out in the world, and really, I guess I should say, we go out on the internet, we go out on social media, and we see, in my experience, and in the experience of many women I know, we see a lot of the same stories. We see rags to riches stories, or what seem like overnight success stories, or stories about really dramatic revenue growth or audience growth or other kind of big milestones that seem to happen quickly. And that has not been my experience. And so I welcome the opportunity to kind of push back against what I consider that story monopoly. That's like one kind of brand of success or path to success, and to share my own, which has been more slow going. And I'm really proud of that, even though it sometimes triggers my impatience. But let me get off my tangent and answer your question about the day to day. So I should preface this by saying I'm one of those perhaps annoying early risers. Like naturally, I actually don't use an alarm clock. I typically, my body just wakes me up early. And, the alarm clock is a good example of what I am continually trying to negotiate in my day to day, is the tension between having structure and having freedom. Not having any structure, having entirely unscheduled time, I find that to be pretty stressful, kind of uncomfortable. I like to have a sense of structure to my day. But on the other hand, if I have too much structure or too many tasks that I tell myself I'm going to complete in one day, then I start to feel trapped. So, kind of negotiating between the two is an ongoing project, an ongoing work in progress. But yeah, let me share what my day is typically like. So like to get up early. I'm happy that I wake up naturally early, a couple hours before my husband. So I have a few hours to myself in the morning. So I like to just be really quiet. I usually do some stretches. I usually do a meditation, about 10 minutes. Usually have some tea or some coffee. Sometimes I go for a walk. Sometimes I play Wordle. Sometimes I look at my phone, although I usually try to delay engaging with the internet until a little later. And then I start work between 8 and 9. And I've been making a really concerted effort lately to be more realistic about what I can expect of myself during the day. And I've been also making a concerted effort to slow down, because I find that I fall prey to kind of frenetic energy pretty easily. And I don't like how that feels on my nervous system. So trying to slow down, one way I've been doing that is making the commitment to not eat in front of my computer. I used to wolf down lunch while skimming through emails, and now I make an effort to not look at the internet when I'm eating my snacks or when I'm eating lunch. And I usually have a couple days a week I have calls. I never schedule calls on Mondays or Fridays, but I typically have some calls or podcast interviews or other events Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And then I try to wrap up between 4 and 6. Sometimes I go to the gym and do some lifting. Sometimes I just lay on my couch and read. Sometimes I start cooking dinner if it's my night. And that's a pretty accurate picture of the day in and day out.
It's I tell everybody, because it's true. I'm a note taker, so I'm sitting here writing, because sometimes too I want to be able to go back and touch on some of these points, and I can appreciate and definitely am grateful that you share the struggle or the tension, if you will, like you mentioned, between the structure and the feeling of having that freedom.
Yeah.
There is that give and take there. And I really appreciate how you talked about feeling that on your nervous system, because that does ramp up on us sometimes if we're not careful.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really,
Yeah.
it can be subtle at first, but I've noticed like, dang, why am I so tense
Hence,
all the
yeah.
time?
Oh goodness. Well, you've got some great best practices in there, in addition to the truthful, practical, what happens to us, and making sure that we're going back to the clarity. But with your meditation, or getting away, and just those things that you're implementing into your days. Touching back a little bit on your career path, and when you first went out on your career path, can you pull something or someone? What influenced you? Maybe it was, your corporate job, or, the education, or, the path you were on at that point. But who influenced you on that initial career path? Can you tie anything back to that?
Yeah, I'm thinking about a couple of women entrepreneurs that I had stumbled across on the internet, as you do, over the years prior to starting my own business and since, who have really been very influential on me. And truthfully, now I train and advise thought leaders, and I practice and produce thought leadership myself, and I can trace back how influential these thought leaders were on me. And so one of them is named Jen Dezura, one of them is named Allie Brown, and more recently, I work closely with a business coach whom I admire very greatly, named Eleanor Beaton. And these three women in particular have really shaped my thinking, and just yeah, really invited me to think differently, think more expansively, be more true to myself, like really have a greater awareness of what my own body and mind are telling me. And to this day, yeah, I can kind of see their fingerprints on how I've developed.
Going directly to what you do, we'll let you talk about your amazing work here in a second. But for the audience that might not understand thought leadership, are you able to put that into words for us? What is it?
Absolutely.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So, thought leadership is one of those terms that gets kind of thrown around all over the place in business circles, and to the point where it can be kind of like jargon. And typically, the kind of basic definition is that thought leadership is the expression of ideas that demonstrate you have expertise in your field. And I think that's a very serviceable definition, but the definition that I prefer to use is for what I call magnetic thought leadership. And that's because I really want to emphasize the power of thought leadership to attract people who are a good fit for us, whether in a business sense or even personally, and to repel those that we just don't align with. And so the definition that I like to use is that magnetic thought leadership provides a strong position and provocative insights in your unique voice, helps you make an intellectual impact, and positions you as an authority in your space so you can build power and wealth and drive social change.
Well, that's a winning explanation right there.
I
I
like
love
it.
that. Yes. Okay, that's fantastic. That is so cool. When you think about something that you're working on, and you've got a great goal, or game plan, or a dream that you're pursuing, if you and when you get stuck, do you have any best practices that work for you that you'd want to share with us? How do you get past that perceived barrier that's between you and that dream or goal?
Oh, that's such a good question, Amber. And it's very topical right now because I just attended a business retreat with my coach, Eleanor Beaton, where she led us through a lot of different visioning exercises and invited us to kind of design what she called a creative project, really like a paradigm shifting or strongly pivoting project in our businesses. And I thought of one, and it really it excites and intimidates me. And in the days since that retreat ended, I've been mulling it over, and yeah, facing a lot of mental barriers about how do I get started, and what if this happens, or what if that happens, or do I do this first, or do I do that first? Just feeling kind of some indecision and just feeling a bit frozen about how to take the first step. So what I've been doing is for one thing, like not rushing myself, because I often find like I feel this sense of invented urgency to move quickly, but there's really no deadline for this project. And I've also observed over the years that my system likes to take its time to get used to new ideas. I spend a lot of time daydreaming about them, like kind of picturing how they might play out. And that really helps my system feel prepared to take on a new idea. So slowing down it's like it can feel frustrating, right? Or counterintuitive, or it can, like I said earlier, trigger impatience. And all of that's very real. But I'm really striving to be incredibly compassionate with myself with the time that it takes, letting myself slow down and really try to focus on, like a metaphor I like to use is thinking about a car's headlights. You know, when you're driving at night, you can only see so far ahead with your headlights, but it's enough to take you a very far distance. And so I'm trying to be like, okay, I have this project. It's exciting and intimidating. What is within my headlights that would be an easy first couple of steps to take? And I can kind of figure out the rest when I'm further down the path.
That creates such an amazing visual for us to put into. Yes, thank you for that.
Yeah, it's a strong one, right?
Yeah. So yes, it's relatable. It's, yes, thank you for that. I love that too.
Good. Yeah, it's really helpful for me.
Yeah, very much, very much. So wow. Okay. Thinking through that too, and you've mentioned your coach. As an independent businesswoman and consultant to others, sometimes a coach of the coach, where do you turn to for support?
Yeah, such a good question. So I think of it as sort of like I have not a board in my mind, but like, a suite of different people who play supporting roles. And so one of those, especially on the professional side, are my coaches. So I mentioned my coach, Eleanor. I also work with Ariana, who is part of Eleanor's team. So that's a source of support on the business side. But I've also found it really valuable to, at the same time that I invest in professional development, that I also invest in personal development. So I've worked with two, I guess you could call them mindset coaches. I think calling them mindset people kind of undersells the breadth and the power of what they do. But I'm thinking of two coaches I've worked with named Karen and Tracy, both of whom have had a really profound positive impact on how I relate to my thinking, how I relate to the desires that I have for my life, and how I stay connected with my body rather than being like a necker upper at all times. And then I would say the third one that really stands out is my husband. My partner is a huge source of day in and day out support and love. And then friends too. I also, I identify as an introvert, but I identify as an outgoing introvert. So I really am very nourished by one-on-one intimate connections. So I try to make sure I spend time with friends on a regular basis so that part of me is nourished.
I'm going to hop around here in my questions because I think it's such a great segue, what you just shared, and really the answers. Talk to us about after an emotionally exhausting situation or day or project, how do you recharge and reset your mindset?
Yeah, well, this makes me think about the fact that I mentioned earlier that too much structure makes me feel trapped. And that's true also of routines. Like if I try to have the exact same routine for how to refuel, I'll get annoyed at it. And what I find works better is to have flexibility and just kind of go with the flow of what I feel like will help me to recharge. So sometimes it looks like crying. Sometimes it looks like laying horizontally and reading a really yummy book that will engage my mind in a totally different world. Sometimes it looks like taking a walk, either by myself or with a friend or with a podcast or with music. Sometimes it looks like getting really absorbed in cooking something. Sometimes it looks like going to the gym and doing a really hard workout. sometimes it looks like a nap or a meditation. So I find that it really depends on, gosh, lots of different variables, I suppose. I don't even know what they all are, but I've noticed that when I feel that like empty tank feeling, I don't always need the same kind of nourishment to recharge. And so the things I just rattled off are all different ways that I've noticed help me recharge depending upon whatever the day is, wherever I am in my cycle or the season or who knows.
It's so refreshing to hear you share that it fluctuates and that the routine can cause that annoyance or not give you the fullness that you're seeking, and that you do vary it. So that's amazing. Good for you.
Thank you. Yeah, I've spent so much time, and maybe you and listeners can relate to this, but like really being hard on myself for not having my routines or my coping practices look a certain way or be a certain consistent in a certain way. I just have given myself so much grief for that. Like I should be journaling every day, or I should be doing this kind of exercise every day. And the reality is I don't want to do the same thing every day. So
Yeah.
thankfully I've gotten to a point now where I just don't.
Yeah. You embrace it. Good for you. Yes.
Yeah.
That's a big win. All right. Let's go back to some more of the professional and business aspect of that too. And then we'll pull it back around to the personal shaping. This sometimes can be a two-part question. Maybe it is a two-part question. Was there ever a specific point in time or key event situation in your professional life, and you may have touched on it, that did force you to make a monumental shift within your business or career? And with that and the result of that, positive or painful, how did you find that situation helped you grow?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm thinking of a point a couple of years into working for myself where I was really not having a very good time. I had pretty frequent what I call I should just get a real job days. Days where I would think to myself, or I would say to my partner, like, man, why am I doing this? This is so hard. I can't tell if I'm moving forward or I'm just treading water. And I would contemplate, like, maybe I should give up. And it dawned on me at one point that I was really resistant to invest in myself. I'd really drunk the Kool-Aid that I should DIY everything and I should pull myself up by all my bootstraps and I should download every free PDF imaginable and just white knuckle my way to success. And I think that is a prevailing narrative in Western culture, so I can see where I got it. But I think also part of it was just that I hadn't made the decision to be really all in on myself as a business owner. And so I didn't feel confident that investing thousands of dollars in, say, coaching would be worthwhile. It was part of it was that I got so desperate that I knew I couldn't not get help if I wanted to like my life. But also through people that I follow and some of my own reading, I realized, well, everybody, other people invest in themselves. Other people have coaches. Other people purchase classes. And heck, like I went to school for years and went to college and taken all sorts of classes over the years. So putting self investment in that context, realizing how many times I'd already invested in myself, and of course it worked out well. I always learned something, helped me overcome that barrier I'd given myself for self investment. So the big turning point was finally investing in business coaching and really having a professional and experienced sounding board and guide and set of tools and process that I could follow to make demonstrable strides in my business. And that was so pivotal because I've been in coaching ever since. And I feel now much like unswervingly confident that, of course, it's worth investing in myself. I am my most reliable, steadfast asset and ally and advocate for my whole life. And so now it seems like a no brainer. Like, of course, you invest in yourself. And I'm really, really grateful I had that awakening. Not only has my business growth accelerated since then, but just how the extent to which I enjoy myself and I like how I spend my time and I feel confident about having good boundaries and being clear on what I do and what I don't do. Those outcomes are just immeasurable. And I'm happy to report I haven't had a I should just get a real job day in years.
3 cheers. Good for you. Oh my goodness. Talk to us about one of your most cherished successes, whether it be personal or professional.
Oh gosh, so many yummy ones I could choose from, but I really cherish the relationship I've built with my partner. So we've been married for a couple of years, and we dated for a few years before then, but we actually started as housemates. We moved into a group house. There were 4 of us total, and I never in a million years thought that we would end up dating. And I was in fact very, very scared to date someone that I was on a lease with, because what if it didn't work out? And then we had to live in the same house until our lease was up. And just the potential upheaval there really, really frightened me. I really cherish the fact that, I went for it anyway and did my, like, I remember early on in our relationship deciding to be more open with Steve than I'd been with previous partners, to not pretend that I didn't have any doubts or to pretend that I had it all figured out. I remember like letting myself cry in front of him more than I was thrilled about, especially in the beginning, but just kind of deciding to get myself used to that and not have that be against the quote unquote rules that I made up for myself. I'm just so over the moon thrilled with our relationship, with our communication and how much fun we have together and how much we entertain each other and how he brings out my goofy side and the ways that we've kind of set up the division of labor in our household and the trips we've taken together. There are just so many. I'm just so proud of our relationship. And I remember how much openness and transparency I had to kind of force myself to share with him in the beginning and how really uncomfortable and nervous it made me. But I'm so glad I did it anyway. And I'm so grateful that he received it well, because what we've built ever since has been, one of the most joyous things I've experienced.
Can hear it in your voice.
Thank you.
That's amazing. Good for you. Congratulations on that. All right, milady, we're going to take a quick break and hear from this episode's sponsor. We'll be right back.
Is it time to sell your home? Build that dream home? Right size? Or are you ready to invest in real estate? Couture Real Estate Firm is a local female-owned independent brokerage laser-focused on services exclusively tailored to our clients' real estate goals. With our forward-thinking business model, we have a fully mobile, luxury real estate concept allowing convenience, flexibility, efficiency for our clients in style. Amber Weitzer, broker-owner of Couture Real Estate Firm, has over 20 years in the real estate industry and is a second-generation broker. She provides straightforward business practices, integrity, and intelligence with a commitment to a high-touch, consistent customer service experience. We take great pride in our reputation as a strong, referral-based brokerage. Discretion, tenacity, respect, and proactive business practices have earned Couture Real Estate Firm a loyal, repeat client business with a trusted global partner network. We strive for ultimate client satisfaction with successful results, doing it with class, consciousness, and a little avant-garde. In addition to serving our clients and vendor partners, we are extremely honored to be actively engaged in supporting the communities we serve by promoting small businesses, schools, and nonprofits. Real estate is direct sales business at its core, and we are highly trained sales professionals with the Mike Ferry organization, adding dimension to the industry. Passionate about customer service, dedicated to client satisfaction, and driven to achieve successful results for our clients. Call Couture Real Estate Firm today at 817-233-7239 to discuss your real estate goals.
All right, we are back. And watching the clock, Eva, this time sometimes I just dread. We're just getting into it. But oh my goodness. But it is that time to begin to wrap everything up here. It has been fantastic visiting with you today. And before I let you go, there's a couple of things I really like to get with. Sharing intentional inspiration with our audience. Do you have a piece of key go-to advice that has either stayed with you, resonated with you, been shared with you, or something that you'd like to share with our audience?
Yeah, I'd love to share a phrase that I repeat to myself pretty regularly, which is that, especially when it comes to personal development or professional development, business growth, anything under those umbrellas, I like to remind myself that when something feels like a stop sign, that often means it's a green light. Because the things that, kind of poke me in the comfort zone or really challenge me to think differently or put myself out there, those things feel uncomfortable, and discomfort can seem like a stop sign, right? Like your body's waving stop signs at you to stop and don't do that and don't put yourself at risk. But every time I have gone forward with the scary thing anyway, it's always so worth it, and I'm so grateful that I went for it. I've learned, and I keep reminding myself that when it feels like a stop sign, that usually means it's a green light and you're really moving yourself into an exciting new place.
Sage advice. It is so neat. It is so neat. I love that. I've never heard that one before.
Good. Yeah, it's really been helpful for me.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, my lady, we are going to wrap up and close out, but definitely before we go, we want to make sure that our audience can go and find and connect with you, follow you, support, engage with you, engage your services. So the stage is yours. Where can our audience go to find and connect with you on your socials and support you in your continued success?
Excellent, Amber. Thank you. Yeah, so we didn't get into this, but I call myself a social media monogamist, which means I only use LinkedIn. That's the only social media where I'm active. So please find me there and send me a connection request and share that you heard me on Silhouettes with Amber. I'd love to meet you there. I can also be reached via my website, medusamediagroup.com. And if you're like, what's this whole thought leadership thing? I'd love to invite you to take my short free course, which is at 5magneticpillars.com, the number 5magneticpillars.com. And that's an overview of some of the magnetic pillars that make thought leadership really attractive and memorable and unignorable online.
Excellent. Thank you for that. What we'll make sure we do is include those links in the resource section of the show notes so
Fantastic.
everyone can go directly there. Easy click. Fantastic. Eva, it has been a delight visiting with you and hearing your Silhouette of Success story. You are a genuine light and true inspiration for us all. So thank you once again for spending some time with us.
Thank you, Amber. I loved our visit.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Silhouettes of Success podcast. If you enjoyed the show, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on all the new episodes. We are here for you and with you. We encourage you to share this podcast on all your socials and pass on the light to help illuminate another silhouette of success. To find out the latest ways to inspire your heart, ignite your mind, and gain actionable insights, subscribe at thesilhouettesofsuccess.com or connect with us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. We're grateful that you tuned in. Remember, you are exactly where you need to be, right here with us. This is the Amber Weitzer podcast, Silhouettes of Success.